The private dining room of the Hawthorne Grand was quiet in the way only money could make it quiet. Thick walls swallowed sound, crystal glasses barely clinked, and every movement felt rehearsed. $1 billion sat at the center of the polished walnut table, disguised as a thin stack of documents and a sleek black pen waiting. Patiently beside them, Evelyn cross-adjusted the cuff of her tailored ivory blazer and glanced around the room. CEOs, board members, investors' faces she'd known for years. Faces that smiled when cameras were on and hardened when they weren't. This deal would cement her legacy. $1 billion acquisition, the biggest of her career. She exhaled slowly. Across the room, Daniel Carter stood perfectly still, holding a silver tray against his forearm. To everyone else, he was invisible. Just another waiter in a black vest. White shirt neatly pressed but slightly worn at the collar. 34 years old. Broad shoulders that hinted at strength no one bothered to ask about. A faint scar ran along his left wrist, hidden beneath the cuff. His eyes, however, never stopped moving. Daniel had learned long ago how to read rooms. It wasn't something you forgot. The way people sat, the way their hands hovered just a little too close to concealed pockets, the way a smile arrived half a second late. The room felt wrong. He took a step forward to refill a glass and caught a glimpse of a man seated near the end of the table. Gray suit, expensive watch, polite smile that never touched his eyes. The man's foot tapped twice, stopped, then twice again, a signal. Daniel's stomach tightened. 6 years ago, he'd walked away from a different life with nothing but a duffel bag and a promise to a 4-year-old boy who needed him more than the world needed another soldier. He waited tables now, took night shifts, learned to live quietly. But instinct didn't retire. The tapping foot wasn't the only thing. One of the assistants, standing near the door, had his hand resting too close to the inside of his jacket. Not a phone, not a pen. Daniel had seen that posture before too many times. Evelyn cross-reached for the pen. Daniel's heart began to pound. He moved before he fully realized he'd decided to. "Ma'am," he said softly, stepping closer to Evelyn's chair. Conversations around the table faltered. Several heads turned, irritation flickering across polished faces. "Yes," Evelyn said, not looking up. "You need to leave," Daniel continued, lowering his voice. "Right now." Silence crashed into the room. A man across the table scoffed. "Excuse me?" Evelyn finally looked up at Daniel, surprise flashing across her face, followed quickly by annoyance. "This isn't appropriate." Daniel met her eyes, calm, steady, urgent. "Please," he said, "stand up. Walk with me. Don't ask questions." Her fingers tightened around the pen. Security shifted uncomfortably near the walls. "This is ridiculous," someone muttered. "Get him out of here." The man with the tapping foot smiled thinly. Evelyn studied Daniel's face. Something in his expression, something raw and unpolished, cut through her irritation. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't bluffing. He was afraid, but not for himself. "For me," she realized. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" she asked quietly. Daniel leaned closer, pretending to adjust the water glass near her elbow. "The deal's poisoned," he whispered. "The exit is compromised. You have about 30 seconds. Her breath caught. Years in boardrooms had taught her when someone was posturing and when someone was telling the truth. Daniel wasn't asking for attention. He was asking for survival. Evelyn stood. Chairs scraped loudly as confusion rippled around the table. "What is this?" a board member snapped. "Sit down, Evelyn." She didn't. Daniel placed a hand gently at her elbow, not forceful, just guiding. The room erupted in protests. "Security, get that waiter away from her." But it was too late. The assistant by the door moved too fast, too deliberate. Daniel saw the shift, the flash of metal beneath fabric. "Now," he said sharply. A loud crack split the air, not a gunshot, but a chair slamming into the floor as Daniel shoved Evelyn aside and lunged forward. The silver tray clattered, spinning across the carpet. The assistant froze, exposed. Security surged. Shouts echoed. Someone screamed. Within seconds, armed guards had the man pinned to the floor, a concealed weapon wrenched from his grasp. Another assistant, bolted for the side exit, and was tackled hard against the wall. Chaos consumed the room. Evelyn stood trembling, heart hammering, staring at the weapon on the floor that had nearly ended her life. Daniel stepped back, breathing heavily, hands raised calmly. "I told you," he said quietly. Police arrived within minutes. The dining room became a crime scene. Deals, documents, and egos scattered like debris after a storm. Later, in a quieter hallway, Evelyn sat alone on a velvet bench. Wrapped in a security jacket someone had draped over her shoulders, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Daniel stood a few feet away, answering questions from officers, calm, precise, professional, in a way that didn't belong to a waiter. Evelyn watched him closely. When the officers finally left, she stood and approached him. "Daniel Carter," she said, reading from a notepad. "Single father, night shift waiter, former military." He hesitated, then nodded. "A long time ago. You saved my life," she said simply. He shrugged. "Just did what I could." "That wasn't just anything," she replied. She learned the truth over the next hour. The deal had been a setup. The company she was acquiring was a shell used to launder money and remove obstacles permanently. Her death would have looked like a tragic act of corporate violence. Daniel had seen the signs because he'd lived through worse. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Evelyn looked at him, really looked at him. A man who worked double shifts to pay rent. A father who packed lunches at dawn after coming home exhausted. A man who walked away from power and violence to raise his son right. "Now," she said, "everything changes." The next morning, headlines exploded. Billion-dollar deal halted after assassination plot. CEO saved by quick-thinking waiter. Daniel didn't read them. He was too busy getting his son ready for school. That afternoon, a black car pulled up outside his small apartment. Evelyn stepped out. She didn't offer him money. She offered him a job. Not as security, not as muscle, as a strategist. "You see things others miss," she said. "I need people like that around me." Daniel hesitated. "My son comes first," he said. She smiled. "Then bring him to dinner sometime." 6 months later, the company was rebuilt from the inside out, corruption stripped away, deals made cleaner, safer. Daniel still wore a suit now, but sometimes, when he passed through the executive dining room, he caught his reflection in the glass and remembered the tray in his hand. The moment everything balanced on a single sentence. "Ma'am, you need to leave. Right now." And how choosing to speak had changed everything. If you want next, scene by scene 8K realistic image prompts, viral YouTube thumbnail prompt, SEO description, keywords, hashtags, tags, or a longer 5K 8K word version,